Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the like if you can, it really helps. So we're on the Celts and we have to look at them from different angles. This is why. First we will start with the writing of Horedius. The river Ista rises among the Celts and the town of Pyrene and crosses the whole of Europe. The Celts are beyond the Pillars of Hercules, next to the Senet, who lived further west of all the peoples of Europe. Well, Celtic swords have been found in the thousands, and I mean the thousands, all across Europe. Roman swords, however, believe it or not, are actually rarer than we think. The ones that are found are in quite poor condition. Now, you would think that if the Romans were truly advanced as presumed in society, that their swords would be in better condition. The truth is, they are not. They weren't. It does not reflect this in what we find. Celtic swords are far more advanced. Their metallurgy skills were not as advanced as the Celts, and sometimes we are not led to believe this in writings. We are not taught this in writings, but the evidence, the archaeological evidence found, that's where it says. If you look at archaeology find, when they go out and find things, you'll realise that, well, yeah, that makes sense. It really does. Julius Caesar himself, he openly wrote about the Celts being more advanced than they were. So, some of the writings out there, they may not be quite as truthful as we would want to think. The Celts are comprised of the Scythians, Germans, and Ionics. Out of these three, the Scythians are the only group that brings into the Indo-European element and then merged the culture of Celts, obviously, into all that. Archaeological artifacts shows influences, actually, from the Etruscans, the Greeks, the Germans, and obviously the Scythians. Now, the Scythians can also be pronounced as Scythians. It's Scythians, and there's a number of ways of pronouncing it. It depends in which area you're going to where they pronounce it, so it really does vary on that. If we look at the Hallstatt burial sites, these are what we know as the most factual information out there, the archaeological factor, the true evidence, not mythological writings, not things like that. No, we're talking about facts. So if we look at the Hallstatt burial site, it's the most popular reference point for when the Celts came into existence, 500 BC. And for some bizarre unknown reasons, it seems everything ended with Julius Caesar, 54 AD. In Highland, however, they were never taken by Rome. They were never once invaded by Rome. Rome didn't take Ireland. And the Celtic culture there continued right until the Normans, when they came in the 1100s. The Celtic civilization existed longer than one might want to admit. The truth is, the Roman Empire kind of lasted around maybe over 1,000 years, maybe under, but the Celts, they survived in Europe in their true form for well over 2,000 years. The problem is, the writings that were done by the pro-Romans, they wouldn't have liked that idea, so they simply would not have put them in the writings. They didn't take Ireland, so therefore the Celts went to Ireland and they flourished. But why would the Romans want to write that? Wouldn't make them look as powerful, would it? So you find a lot of the writings, they stamp out the Celts because of this. It's a shame. The first Celtic empire was firmly in place by 277 BC. It wasn't managed as we expect it to be managed in Rome, but nevertheless it was an empire of such. If we look at Celts, and we look at the peak of the Celtic times, for example, they occupied all of Europe for over 100 years, and their territory ranged from Crimea down into northern Turkey and as far west as Portugal, from central Italy and all the way up to northern Scotland to the very, very tip. The second empire was the Irish Empire, and this was under the King Niall of the Nine Hostages. In Ireland and partial Britain today is where we have this unique empire finally acknowledged. And this little island at one time was on the verge of conquering Britain. Did you know that? It really was. If it wasn't for Vortigern calling Saxons to help, we don't know where Britain would be today, because they may have conquered. And then we have the Celtic Church Empire. It did originate in Ireland, but it swept all across Britain and Central Europe, and it lasted for well over 300 years. So, I'm going to end this one here, because when we come back, we're going to start with the Hallstatt Celts. We're going to look at those first, and then we're going to go on to the Irish Empire, and then we're going to go on to the Celtic Church Empire. We're going to look at each one. And I'm not going to go really in depth, but I'll give you an idea of how it sort of went for the Celts as such. We will end with a Strabo wrote, "Their vanity, therefore, makes them unbearable in victory, while defeat plunges them into the deepest despair. Their thoughtlessness is also accompanied by traits of barbarity and savagery, and is so often the case with the population of the north." So do you see where we're going with this? The reason there was no more writings is because of the Romans. However, the Celts went on to survive in their true form. They just went to Ireland instead. And then they spread. The Romans, they lasted a mere 1,000 years, and the Celts for over 2,000. And if you look at Roman writings, you'll not find that. You'll look at, because most of them are like pro-Roman. So it really just like gets to a point where it's just the Celts are non-existent, you know. So when we come back, the first one we will look at is the Hallstatt Celts, because that's what is believed factually the start of the Celts. So I hope that you join us for this next episode. It will definitely be great to be telling this again. It's been a long time since I've sat and actually done one of these kind of lectures, because I used to lecture, but yeah, it'd be nice to get it out there. Thank you for listening, and many blessings.